YouTube, this is Said Mirza. Today's video is about Salat. Now, Salat is something that keeps popping up on my YouTube channel again and again, and so I figured I would talk about it a little bit more. And part of the reason why I want to talk about Salat is because of an interesting discussion I saw on a forum. This is a Qur'an alone forum, and the discussion was about Salat and how the Quran mentions exactly how to do a ritual prayer, which the Muslims do, and we need to only go through all these verses and stack them up in a certain manner, and etc. etc. But what was interesting was the reply to this discussion by another user. He said, I've been on this forum for the last 10 years, and you guys have been debating about Salat. Are you guys going to be debating about Salat for the next 10 years? And that really struck a chord with me, because a lot of adherents of the religion of Islam are still stuck in this paradigm of what Salat is, if it's a ritual prayer or not, and how exactly are we supposed to implement this ritual prayer, and if it's 5 prayers or 3 prayers or 2 prayers. And honestly, everyone, a lot of Quran alone followers are missing the point. The point is that Salat is a general term, and that it can mean many things, not just prayer in the context of the Quran. And this is what Brother Gerrans has done. He has analyzed the word Salat in the Quran, and he has come up with an abstract term called duty, so that this term can fit across all the verses of the Quran. And if you go through his work sincerely, you'll see why he does that, because there's no other way to implement the Quranic Salat in many other contexts in the Quran, which does not talk about prayer. And I will bring forth verses, God willing, from the Quran showing you how Salat is linked with not just prayer, but remembrance of God and reading the Quran and feeding the poor, etc. But the bigger issue is that the Quran does not give us the 5 prayers, the 5 canonical prayers of the religion of Islam by name. Now, this is a big issue, because if the stance of the muftis and sheikhs and maulvis is that Salat is something that is so fundamental to the religion of Islam, then certainly this should be mentioned in the Quran. These prayers should be mentioned by name, but they're not. And they should be mentioned in the Quran, because the Quran says that it is complete, clear, and fully detailed. The only 3 mentions of the Salat by name are Salat al-Fajr, Salat al-Wusta, and Salat al-Isha. And this is usually translated as Salat al-Fajr as the morning prayer, the Salat al-Wusta is the middle prayer, the afternoon prayer, and Salat al-Isha is the night prayer, the evening prayer. And that's all there is to it. Now, we do see in the Quran that there's a strong correlation between Salat and remembrance of God. Just to give you a little bit of backstory here, we have chapter 2, verse 45. It says, and seek help in patience and duty, and it is hard, save for the humble. So here it's talking about that you should be seeking help in patience and duty. Or if you want to put Salat in there, that's fine too. So it'll be something like, and seek help in patience and Salat, and it is hard, save for the humble. And we see this verse being mirrored in another verse in the Quran. Chapter 8, verse 45 goes on to say, O you who heed warning, when you meet a company. So this is the part where they obviously need help. They're seeking help from God because they're in battle. O you who heed warning, when you meet a company, stand firm and remember God much, that you might be successful. So the standing firm part is the patient part, and remembering God is the Salat part. So definitely in these 2 set of verses, we see that Salat means remembrance of God. Another instances of Prophet Musa, this was his first encounter with God, and we see that God addresses him and says, I am God, there is no God save I, so serve thou me and uphold thou the Salat for my remembrance. Chapter 20, verse 14. So clearly we see here that Salat means something that needs to be upheld for God's remembrance. And later down in the same chapter we have, Go thou and thy brother with my proofs, and flag not in my remembrance. chapter 20, verse 42. So again, he's being exhorted to remember God, which is upholding the duty. Now, reading the Quran is also a key part of Salat. We have chapter 17, verse 78. It says, "Uphold thou the duty at the merging of the sun until the dark of night, and the recitation of dawn." The recitation of dawn is witnessed. Obviously, recitation of the Quran at dawn. And upholding the Salat at the merging of the sun until the dark of the night is obviously referring to the Salatul Isha, the evening prayer. So if you go through the Quran, you will see these sort of markers that signify what Salat is. Usually in the context, it's telling you what the Salat is. And because Salat is a general term, a lot of Muslims have difficulty understanding that just because Salat is a prayer does not mean that Salat is only prayer. As in, it could mean more things, and it's a general term. And that Salat is not something that's done 5 times a day. It's done throughout your life, every waking moment of your life. And this is the central aspect of Salat. And we also have to understand that Salat is being done to remember God, and that to draw closer to God. And it's the same with fasting. Fasting is done so God says to fast so that you be a prudent fear, so that you have taqwa, you remember God. So you have to look at the activity and the results. If you're doing the activity and you're not getting the results, that means that you're doing the activity wrong, or you're not being sincere in that activity, or there's a blockage that needs to be addressed for that activity to give you the result, the intended result. And it's the same with Salat. If you're doing Salat and you're still not remembering God, and you're still not being a prudent fear, and you're still not feeling that you're getting closer to God and implementing His imperatives, if you're having challenges in fighting the temptations of shaitan, that means that this needs to be addressed. This is not some pointless activity that you do 5 times a day, facing a stone idol in Makkah, and throughout your life that has no value, no purpose to you, because at the end of the day, when you die, you're going to have to face your maker, and he's going to ask you the questions you won't have any answers to. So this is the fundamental issue with how many people address Salat in a totally wrong approach. Anyway, I do hope that this was of some use to you. God willing, until the next video, peace be upon you.